Hi there, how you doing? Well, today I'm going to talk about slavery, which has been part of any one-on-one Western civilization study, all the way back to the Sumerians when they talk about worshiping deities and being made for the toil as a slave race, to the Arcadians, all the way through the Mesopotamian region. But it wasn't color based. It was simply birth based. Which gets ties back into kind of Anunnaki lore and things of that nature. But we'll stay aside from that and we'll talk from the present forward. So from Sumeria all the way into Greece, whereas the racism started with color was really, in my opinion, through the Grecians, when they decided to invest so much in competition. And in doing so, they held their city-states as tightly knit units. And now they were all Grecians, and first and foremost, they would usually gather together and fend off anybody else coming in. However, they also had strict competition with themselves, and each state was independent, and so on and so forth. But the competition bred slavery, meaning elevating the Greeks above everybody else. And Greeks were white. Yeah, whitish. So there goes that. There's where the racism comes from that. But ultimately, if you read any old text, it talks about the division of language in plural, and divisions. Being set precedent to divide through language, through color, through every possible way you can divide a people. And if you look at us today, we're divided by everything: sex, religion. I mean, you name it. It's everything. You couldn't find 10 people to sit down in a room and agree on 10 things in 10 minutes. You'd be hard pressed. We're very divided on many levels. Even if we seem to agree about certain things, it's like maybe the main topic is covered. And this is what they do. In today, when we look at it, we see Pepsi or Coke, Romney or Obama. Not much of a choice there, not really at all. Both of them were funded by Goldman Sachs and various other special interest groups, and we know this is fact. Meaning you or I would have a very hard time running to be leader of this country. But nevertheless, what does this all have to do with slavery? Well, think about it. We're talking about a state in our country where they'll be injecting your children with vaccinations, which we do not know the long-term effects. But the studies that are showing what happens in long-term effects are not good. Why is the death rate going up? Why are more people dying today than ever before? Why are there more cancers and more things? Why are all these things on a rise? It's called depopulation, because you're a fucking slave. It's cattle. We are cattle. You can look at through any society. Think about the power structure. Tell me when it's changed. Throughout history, it has never changed. It has migrated from this to this. It went from Mesopotamia into Greece, Rome. It spread out. Persia had their thing. Africa, such as Egypt and further down, had other things coming up. I mean, it has always been the closest thing that I've been able to find that was the closest to not slavery would have been the Germanic region, where men and women were equal, although the laws that they had at the time were, somebody looked at you wrong, you could be considered guilty. But we did introduce jurors and tribunals basically for deciding one's fate in matters of society, or what they establish as not okay, I can't think of the word right now. My brain's not working. But basically, it's all subjective slavery. If you can't decide what you think, if you're told what to think, how to feel, pressured by the mass, pressured by this or pressured by that, which you're always going to be, are you free? Have you studied? I try to study. The more, and I'm just going to come out about this. This is really where I come to. So I've been doing a lot of studying, and I love history. And I love ancient history. And what I've come up with is basically this, and this will probably knock me off of the sane crew. Not that anybody who ever listens to me ever thought I was sane, and I appreciate that, because I'm glad that the mass does not think I'm sane. I consider that a compliment. Thank you very much. But Anunnaki. I've mentioned them before. I've done posts about them. Sumerian text basically refers to those from heaven who came to earth, or come to earth, meaning this is where we started, and they talk about genetic modifications to create the human race for the toil, which was they were mining gold. And the list goes on, and there's tons of evidence. And there's, when you get to, aside from the text, let's look at the architecture and the buildings. In Bosnia, they found a pyramid that's 25,000 years old, predating Sumerian, and it's huge. The whole city was built off the side of it. Now you can look at, this is archaeology, this is science. There's another city under outside of Japan. There's all over the place. We're finding that there are civilizations underwater, or they have just been covered by, over the thousands of years. And you could talk about the Danube or whatnot, which would be the Great Flood, and a couple Great Floods and things of that. That are all throughout almost every early civilization tells the same story. And we're going to sit here, and then let's fast forward to Catholicism and the nature of control of literature and text and information, and look at the results today. The same thing can be said for government. It's a manipulation of information, and those who are in power have always known that if you have the information, you have the power. Knowledge is power. We know this. We talk about this. Unless we just say this shit to hear ourselves talk, we say these things all the time. These are themes that run through the human experience. But yet, for some reason, it's called suspended disbelief. We can't seem to place ourselves in that. We are slaves. We were created as slaves. And those that hold the power, the bloodlines, that are from the early genetic modifications to the indigenous species of this planet, 445,000 years ago, and unto us, which was later, which was not 445,000, but nevertheless, this is looking to be like fact. And I'm just going off the text and the archaeological stuff we're finding. These were not stories. These were not like myths. These were actual events that happened, and that's the way that they categorize them. And you want to call me crazy? Well, let's just take a look at this. These were actually written by the people at the time. You read books, the Quran, the Bible. Well, these were written hundreds and thousands of years after this. After these were written, and they are all taken from this original text. So, and I'm not talking about having anything to do with God. I'm talking about aliens. I'm talking about, these aren't gods. These are, well, early man would have perceived them to be, and people today would probably so perceive them to be gods. However, they're just another species out in the universe. And we can talk about, and how does this have to do with slavery? My point being is that there is more than you know, and the control is keeping you knowing nothing, keeping you in your daily grind, keeping you vaccinated, keeping you eating GMOs, keeping you going to school for how many fucking years? You're 28 when you get out with a master's, or 28, 27. I mean, you say you're smart, you're out at 24 with a master's, 23. And then what? And then what job? And then a job to create what? To create money, to create wealth for what? For the top of the pyramid. So you can have a little gadgeter here. What happened to this world that we spoke about when I was young about being better? Well, this isn't better. Yeah, we have nice little gadgets, but tell me this world is better. Tell me it's not. It's the same. It's the same throughout history. It's always been the same. And the peasantries have always acted the same. And right about now, as people like me start coming and talking out, is when the change starts happening and when the crush starts coming. And I believe, historically, would point out that those nails that stick up and start talking get hammered down either by the mass or by the government or the powers that be. Let's just call it the powers that be, the elite, because that is your government. You can see it in how they pay for the whole elections. What do you think? Do you think that $100 you sent? Do you think that got them elected? Oh no. Oh no. No, it did not. And you know this. So it's time to wake up. It's time to start looking at this world for what it really is. It's a beautiful place. This is not all that there is. And I realize this, like I said, makes me sound crazy, and I don't give a shit. You want to talk about men walking on water? Well, and turning, water into wine and things of this nature. I'm talking about stuff that's actual text. I'm talking about actual buildings. I'm talking about 800,000 ton blocks, which they call the spaceports, which you can find in oh God, I really need to have a list next to me so I can remember all the names and stuff. But there's a couple sites. One's in Jerusalem, and the other is in, well, they're all around the same area, but they're spaceports. But say they're not spaceports. You tell me how 800,000 ton blocks. I'm a stonemason. I don't really know if you can imagine the weight of that, and we actually don't have machinery that can do that. That's a fact. So how did they do it? How did they build a pyramid in Bosnia that outstretches? Google it, YouTube it. You can see it. You can see the archaeology. The Spanish archaeologists are in there. But take a look, and tell me what you've been seeing is real. Tell me that this is it. Tell me that this is real. I follow the belief that we are eternal. We're a source of energy. This is an experience from the one, and some know this and some don't, and some will use it to imprison those that do. And here we go, and this is it. I mean, there's no such thing as death. This is a transfer of energy. And that's the slavery. The idea that you're not powerful, that you're not unique, that you're not individual of a whole. This whole point of this experience is to be an individual. You are. After this experience, you rejoin with the whole. We all talk about it in all our religions. Call it God, call it Yahweh, call it this, call it that. I mean, all our text talks about this. Let's just say there's some truth to it. Let's just say that we are not so different. But the reality is that as long as somebody is telling you what is and is what not, you will always be subjected to slavery. And we have to some point, because that is how we pass on information. However, if you do the research and use your brain, and start eating right to help use your brain, which is, getting those GMOs out. Quit taking those vaccines. Quit watching all the TV. I watch documentaries and I watch shows and I watch movies, but I search them out for what I am looking for. I don't let them feed it to me. Now, of course, they are feeding to me because there's only a allotment of information that I can find of what's out there. So, of course, it's still fed. But at least I have some resemblance of choice. But the real freedom is not, you're not going to find it in these computers. You're not going to find it in any of this stuff. The real freedom's in here. However, I believe that it's my task, my job, my reason, in part, for existence is to fight for freedom and to stand up to tyranny. I always have. I've always believed in it, and I've always felt this calling. And it's a nonviolent calling. Again, defense is not violence, but he who throws the first stone. But you throw a fucking stone at me, I'm going to chuck a fucking boulder at you. Do you feel me? I mean, fold, tenfold. I have children. You try to vaccinate my children without my consent, we will have a problem. And this is what is happening in this state. We're looking at almost a civil war by the next 10 years, the way I see it. I hate to fucking say it, but you people out there voting for this, for the government to come and vaccinate kids, to take children away because you deem it not okay, it's a little too impersonal. It's too quick of a fucking fix, asshole. Time to fucking put your money where your mouth is. You want to talk about the fucking village? Get the fuck off your fucking ass and go fucking volunteer. Volunteer. Look at our society. It's fucking sick and decadent. We have the highest prison population, and you can sit here and talk about America the fucking beautiful, but when you imprison your fucking population, you are not so fucking beautiful. Okay? And I see that for what it is. I love my country. I love my people, but you people who are asleep and don't care or want to keep voting, or you want to keep talking in circles with no, you know who you are, and you want to keep co-signing each other's bullshit, well, I won't do it. And if that means I have no friends and nobody at the end of the fucking day, then so fucking be it. And this is where I've come to. I have lots of friends that respect me, so I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, if I'm around people and they don't want to hear the fucking truth, well, genocide is happening in my fucking name, in my fucking country, across the globe and here and worldwide, under the fucking banner of fucking America. Would you bet your fucking mouth I'm gonna fucking say something? And if it makes you feel uncomfortable, fuck you. You fucking hear me? Yeah, this is pissed off and it's a rant, but fucking fuck you. Much love, all one. Defend your fucking friends, your home, your family, and all that's important. Defend it.